Pixlr.net, and I'm gonna show you an application I made for iPad that is supposed to be or become in the future. I have more honestly have to say that. A real full-blown VIZ system that you can carry around on your favorite touchscreen tablet. Some of you might know some other stuff I do. Some people tell me that they use my other app called Touch OSC. It's a multi-touch modular OSC and MIDI control surface. And so a bit of history first before I basically go back and just show you the app itself, which makes a lot more sense than talking about it, but I want to tell you a bit about the idea, because I was making iOS software already since the first day, 2008 when the App Store opened. I published some stuff, which was mildly successful in the beginning, but then the iPad came around, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could have something like Resolute or Modulate, or let's say real professional DJ software in your pocket basically, and it would make a lot of things very interesting. Like, for example, lots of people do mobile projections. Say you're in a car and you're driving and you're projecting onto the houses you drive by, which people do. And wouldn't it be very nice if you could cut away most of the equipment that you need for that, like a laptop, input devices, say mouse, whatever, controllers, MIDI controllers. Wouldn't it be nice to just use this beautiful device that Apple made, because it cuts away most of these things. It has a touchscreen, it has a video out, it doesn't need anything basically. It's battery powered as well, which is very nice. And all you need to bring is whatever you want to display on, and the rest, including the control of it, would basically be handled by this portable thin computer. So I'm glad that I didn't do it back then, because I was thinking about it when the original iPad came out, but I didn't make the app, even though I had the idea. I'm glad I didn't. I made it last year in December, and found out that, at least for me and my skills, I guess, it's not possible to make this run on an iPad 1. Because CPU and the amount of RAM in the end is what killed it. I don't think that there's many VJ applications that could run having about 64 MB of RAM. So it's impossible to buffer enough video to keep that steady. So I basically had to choose to make it for an iPad 2 exclusively, which doubles the RAM and therefore makes this possible. Without further ado, I want to show you. So, here you see the basic interface of it, which if you use any kind of VJ software should be halfway familiar to you. It wants to go on a network, but I'll get to that later why that is interesting to have these things networked. So basically what it comes down to right now, which I hope in the future to build on, is that this is a 2-channel video mixer. So the input is straight video. There's sadly so far no kind of plug-in system or something, which is sadly also not possible because of Apple being a very, very dominating. And anyway, so I'll show you a couple of functions. You can see the touches I'm making, but I guess you might get an idea from what you see there. So we can load clips into AME channels. And of course, basic function, a crossfade. Oh, I have some effects already on. This is not clean. So I tried to really orient myself at how regular VJ software works, and I looked around as well first if there's anything available like this on the pad, because obviously it wouldn't make sense if someone already makes a fantastic application. I looked around and no one's doing it for some reason. I mean, I found out about some reasons why no one's doing that while making it, I guess. It wasn't really trivial, to say the least. So mean, most of the stuff is probably boring to you, like functions. You have a crossfader. You have a global level, fade to black, very important, as everyone knows. You have like a canvas color. And right now, the app can only play videos in one direction, which is forward, which is another limitation that I don't like much, but right now there is no other way. Apple doesn't give me enough access. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. I know you have a question. And you can change the speed. So that's all very basic. You can load like 5 banks, and which is also a limitation. I cannot just load infinitely as many videos as I want, so I have to restrict it. So I made 5 pages, 5 by 5, which I'm later going to say is nice for control, because it's easy to map this to like a MIDI keyboard or something like this. 125 fits in the MIDI message range as feeble and small as it may be. So, next effects section. This is something I'm quite happy with. As I was looking at, like, there's 2 other VJ apps and they have nothing like it. They don't do any effects, they just play video. You can mix them and you can crossfade them, and that's it. I was wondering why, because these little machines, they run OpenGL, as some of you might know, which is a very powerful graphics API, which also introduces the concept of pixel and vertex shading. So basically meaning I can write little GPU programs that filter data in real time on the GPU, which is what I did here. So basically this whole effects section in the lower right is just GSL shaders files. So really straight, like you would if you did any kind of programming like this on a desktop or a game console or something like this. It's a shader. And it's like that running here. So I'll show you some of those. I can load 3 effects. I have an effects section, and it has A, B, and master. So that means I can filter channel A input, the channel B input, and I can have the whole composition at the end filtered again. Which kind of makes, even in this limited form, already some nice combinations. So let's load some. So here you see the channel A being filtered. And I can put, let's say, pixelated channel B with parameters. You see all the effects have parameters, which basically would pass variables to the shaders. So say like, okay, make this not this big, or mirror on this axis, like say mirror effect. And I would go and have a parameter. Shift that around. One nice extra thing, which is exclusive to running this on a touchscreen device, would be that you can touch this preview area, and most or some effects say actually use position. Like say I have a mirror, which basically has an axis X and Y, so that means I can very directly touch this preview area and control the parameters as like an XY path would. So I mean, you don't see this, but I'm touching the preview. So you can directly, if the effect is something that is localized to like left or right or coordinate, you would be exactly touching the point where you're shifting the mirror axis, which makes this very natural compared to something else. On top of that, it's multi-touch. So say we have an effect that has 4 parameters. That would mean the first finger you slide across the preview would take the first 2 parameters, and the second one would be an XY path for the second 2. I gotta find an effect that has more than... Here you see some examples of like what this does, but I mean, the point here really is not that this is very impressive or anything. I mean, lots of applications do this. The point is really that I can take this in my backpack. It's better powered, and if I go to a show and there's a projector or a screen, I just hook up and I can play. Lots of people tell me as well, they carry this around as a backup. Say a computer dies or gets stolen on the airport on arrival. I can whip this out and play a 6-hour show if I have to, if battery permits, of course. Yeah, here, for example, I would use 2 fingers and all 4 parameters would move at the same time. I can also make this bigger, so I would get a big iPad I can drift around on.
Automate the parameter.
After what?
Automate.
Automate. Yeah, I'm getting to that. That is coming. Automation. The question was if I can automate these parameters, and that's actually one thing I'm working on. That is not in the app right now when you download it, which is coming. And so far so good. One more thing, you can use the cameras, which is another nice thing. This device has a lot of stuff built in. Like it's a touch screen, it has accelerometers, gyroscopes, GPS, audio in, audio out, it has a speaker. And for example, the camera is a no-brainer to include, which makes this actually really nice. Because you can move the device as well as it is so light. Let me take down all these effects for now. Oops. So we have two cameras as well, front and back. I have to keep the plug-in. Usually this video cable is taped ultra strongly to the pad so it never comes out, especially if you want this. And of course the video picture is just another picture, so all the effects and everything basically keeps working. And you can mix it. Which is a nice addition, I think, that you have the camera built into your VJ computer basically, that you actually can move around because it's light and thin. Which is nice. Okay, there we go. Of course, right now, I'm showing you the interface, which is not what you usually want, but it's very nice to present, so you can actually see what I'm doing here. And the camera is the wrong one. But, of course, it detects that it has an external display connected, so I can choose to enable this, and then you would only get the output. So I don't know what the resolution of this projector is. I'll try the biggest, of course. So this is how you would use it. You're not in a presentation situation right now, which is the live image right now. Okay, so that's the core of the VJ. I've had a lot of plans and I built it in a way that it will be able to do a lot of things that it can't do right now, because I'm already working a bit at the limits of what this thing can do. So everything I do from now on, I have to be very careful, because people actually tell me that it can handle, like especially on this newer version iPad, it can handle quite extensive resolutions. I play videos at 1080 often, and I don't see any performance problem with that. The thing is, I want it to stay like that. So anything I add, I have to be careful not to sacrifice the actual playback speed. Which right now might not be very nice actually, because this is a version I'm hacking on. This is not what's on the store. I would go back and check a lot of things. This might actually be a bit stuttery sometimes. Because I'm here, this is the version, I want to show you some things that will be added. First, a couple of things that I can't show you right now, but they're pretty trivial because of the way I built the app, like say the shaders, right? It's plain text files that are little GPU programs that get uploaded to the graphics card and executed there. The beauty of it being basically text files means I can open this to people. They can make their own shaders, import them onto their iPad, and make their own effects. It's not as nice as, say, some VJ apps work exclusively with Quartz Composer, and you have a visual environment added that. I mean, it's not that nice. You have to type GLSL programs. You have to know how it works. You can't really just visually construct this. But for someone who knows how to do this, it's relatively easy, especially these programs are usually very small. And you can quickly make some effect, like a mirror effect like here. It's like 3 lines of code. It's extremely simple to say, show everything again on the other side. And the point is also, not everyone needs to be a maker. Obviously, if you have some kind of plugin system, you can have people, experts, making really great stuff, and other people just download it, basically, and import it. On top of that, what I really want to do, because that's what I do when I actually perform, I'm not actually using any video. So maybe I'm not an expert on that, actually, because most of what I do is real-time generated. I do real-time graphics. So I want to incorporate this as well. That means I will add a layer that will give you a simple scripting language, and that will offer you a lot of drawing commands, like say we draw lines, we draw rectangles, we have a camera transformation. So people could make their own generators instead of loading clips. You could have a plugin that would do noise or draw whatever 3D funny scene that you want, which makes it much more interesting. And again, the sharing aspect. If someone makes a cool effect, I can take it and just download it and put it on the pad by my computer, or even from inside the app. There's no reason that I couldn't be browsing a website and say download this and it imports. What I do have working, what I showed it, but he was asking is automation.
I have another question.
Yes?
Okay, we know for the GLS.
Can you speak up a bit?
Yeah. Okay, for the GLS2, you cannot have the video as a texture, as an input.
The question.
So can you implement the mesh system into your soft so we finally can do the mapping from it?
I don't know.
Can we have
I
the
didn't
dynamic
understand
mesh?
everything. First thing you said is, you say I can't use the video as a texture input to the shader.
No, you cannot use video as a texture input on the texture for the mesh. At least for the minor part of the iPod.
I still don't fully understand.
As a monotouch developer.
What's happening here is I take the video from the camera, make it over to the texture, and then I just treat it like whatever image would be coming from the video. For me, it's no different.
Yeah, basically you apply it on the quad as a texture.
Quad.
Quad, just a simple break.
Whatever. We'll talk about it later. I don't understand the question, but
Yeah,
I guess maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. It's possible or not.
On the monotouch, we find that the limitation you cannot use the video as a texture.
I am using the video as a texture.
Yeah.
And that was pretty tough, I have to say, because Apple doesn't want you to do that. They want you to do it, but they don't want you real time. They want you like to make a video editing application, like offline, not real time. They want you to read the video, process the pictures, and write them away, like iMovie does, for example. You apply effects, and you get a preview, like Premiere, you get a preview, but it's not really real time, because it's not fast enough a device. And I'm working around that by using multi-threading. In the background, this process is running, pre-buffering the video in a way that is not real time. But when my buffers full, I start playing real time, and they keep in front of what's going on. So multi-threading is the solution for this. And getting the right priorities also to not have the buffering processes disturb the playback and so forth. So that's what I meant earlier when I say I'm adding new stuff now, because I want to make it what I claim it is, like a professional DJ application that has all the functions that I am also expecting from one. But I have to add them slowly, step by step, to not break that it actually plays the bass function, playing the video properly. That's very important. Anyway, back to he asked earlier, automation. Like what I'm doing now, which was going to be soon. Oh wait, let me get you interfacing. I had LFOs, which are very simple but very effective to make a nice kind of thing. This is not yet out. This is going to be out in a couple of weeks or something, and we just need to test and make it all fluent. But let's say also, because it's touch again, it's very easy to just say, what I do is I touch this add button as like a shift function, and then touch whatever control on screen I want this LFO to be tied to, which makes this very natural again. Like with the fingers you touch the control you want to automate. I mean with the mouse, okay, it's the same, but it is very direct. I mean, and then here I have like multi-touch gestures to adjust, like say, the range of an LFO, which is not on, by the way. Let me turn it on for you. So I would have something like this. Also, what you see on the top, I have it's a bit rudimentary right now, but I'm going to have tempo. And what I really want to do with this is, because the device has like both microphone and line in, you can feed an audio signal into it and do some processing on it, do things like beat detection, or use the spectrum analysis for modulation again, of course. Same with accelerometer. There's no reason that instead of this LFO you will get 3 faders that would give you the rotation of the device, and that you couldn't map those to save the brightness of one of the vehicles.
I'm sorry, what about the 3D layers, the proper 3D layers?
Yeah, the question is, what are you saying, what about 3D layers? That's another thing that's coming. I'm not so sure exactly what you mean, but number one would be that right now this output is a rectangle, but I'm using this OpenGL graphics system, so I'm already in 3D. So there's absolutely no reason that I could not rotate, position, and like, yeah, give me a second. Rotate the output. A lot of people have been requesting that, and I'll be adding that super soon, because there's no reason not to, that I know, especially again with the touch input, it's very nice. I touch the video and I drag it to where I want, and I use this very common like pinch gesture to make it bigger or rotate, which hopefully makes it easy to adjust. Also, what would be nice would be mapping controls that you would have probably in the case, because usually, I don't know, I'm not doing a lot of mapping, so I'm not an expert. I'm going to talk to a lot of people here who do, so they hopefully can tell me what they've seen. Give me a second, I'll remember it. He has more questions. That you have a mapping editor. Like something like, I looked at MapMapper, what the interface looks like. I give you a mesh, or I give you a certain curve, and allow you to run, or blank out the pieces. Yeah, what was your question?
Okay, so for the 3D layers, the purpose to use them is to have the proper alpha channel on the 2D textures. So you can blend the textures with a proper alpha mask.
Blending textures with alpha masks.
But with the alpha mask that comes from the depth mask.
Okay, I mean, look what I said earlier. I want to open like a sort of interface to people to make sort of their own plugins. Something like FFGL, you know that, right? Most VJ applications support that. I kind of want a system like that here. I cannot support FFGL because Apple restrictions don't allow me to actually load binary code. But I could make like, again, like the shaders, a sort of scripting language that looks like, say, processing. And there, you would have almost everything that I can draw on OpenGL, you can do in the script as well. So you can do 3D, 2D, depth. I'll give you basically GL functions that say enable depth test. You know, give me a depth buffer, and I make you a little plugin, gets its own FBO, like an off-screen texture, you can render whatever you want there. And then it ends up like one of those videos. It's no difference. In the end, there's a picture coming out.
No, for the third layer, you're gonna do the alpha depth proper test.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. I want to say two more things, okay? There's one more thing that's obviously, I make like an app called TouchOC as a controller, and I like Open Sound Control a lot because usually when I make installations, all my machines talk to each other over the network. So obviously this app supports all of this. I have MIDI in there and Open Sound Control, so you can go have another computer network, or you could have 6 of those paths, say, connect to 6 beamers, and let them talk to each other or control them from yet another computer or another path. So every function I just showed you, all of this is mapped to OSC and also to MIDI. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of MIDI, but it works. The only sad thing is, right now I cannot find a way to connect the video out and a MIDI controller at the same time, because there doesn't seem to be an adapter that makes that possible. I tested it, you can hook up a MIDI controller, a real like hardware, like a nano control, and map that to all functions. The problem is I also want the video out, and that already takes up the plug that the iPad has. So I hope maybe I can build, or a friend of mine can build, an adapter that gives me both at the same time, which would be super cool. I'll bring a MIDI controller for people who are not too fond of the touchscreen control. They can have a MIDI controller and their output at the same time, all in the size, which would be very fun. And I'm also hoping that these things will get even more powerful. So like the things I'm working on right now is spectrum analysis of the incoming input, which is giving me a bit of a headache because of the CPU power this thing has. I have to be careful and make it all a bit simpler than it could be. And maybe in the future these things will be full-blown mega number crunchers. And then there's no reason that you shouldn't have like a full, really extensive BJ application. I also think that by the end of the year, this is going to have much more functions. Like I know them from big BJ packages and you know them. Anyway, if you have any more questions or stuff, I think I have to wrap it up. Then come talk to me.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
First of all, absolutely lovely, looks great, well done. How long did it take you to write the software?
At the moment I decided to make it, I was lucky that I had a lot of time, so it took 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yes. I did nothing else.
That's very impressive.
I had a couple of dead ends, I had to stop and re-engineer stuff. I think it could have been faster. But 4 weeks. Thanks.